Jarvis Landry. Thank you. We're so glad you're here. And I know you're here on behalf of the MSC Foundation and the Super Coral Play campaign. So just first tell us about that.
Just an opportunity for me to, kind of raise awareness about Super Coral and what it means to our environment and to our future.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for being here. I know you've got a lot of questions here.
I do. Mr. Landry, welcome to Undisputed. 6 months ago, we were bullish on your football team. Shannon was driving your bandwagon. I'm a big Baker fan. We thought this is the year you guys are at least going to be a playoff team, if not go deep in the playoffs. And the bottom fell out. And you go 6-10. Baker had a bad year. You had a pretty good year. Nick Chubb actually had a very good year. So what was the main reason that you went 6-10? As you've had time to let it sink in, what exactly happened if you had to put one finger on one issue?
Communication. Communication, it's the biggest thing. You've played the game, and when you don't have everybody on the same page at all times, it can definitely screw a lot of things up. And, I was a part of it. I was a part of it, and you guys saw.
So can we start with Freddie Kitchens? Was it just a bad idea to elevate him? He'd never been close to being a head coach. He'd only been a coordinator for, about half a year?
Yeah.
So was that the start of the undoing of the Browns?
I wouldn't say that. I think the transition that I believe the organization was trying to make from the first year was, I think it was the right thing to do. The relationship that he had formed with Baker. But, running a team, it's a lot more than just being personal with one guy.
Correct.
And coaching one guy, and not that he was in over his head or anything like that, but we just couldn't find a way to get on the same page and figure out what our identity was.
Did Freddie ever get on Odell's same page? Because you two guys are very close, obviously. I hope you're still close, because it was a long, hard year.
Yeah.
But you had a few more targets than he did, a few more catches than your man Odell did, had a little better year than Odell, and across the board, he had career lows in every category. Did it work between you and Odell?
Yeah, it did. It did. And a lot of that played a big part in, what he went through this year was, the injury, the coming into a new team and a new system. A lot of the chemistry that me and Baker had kind of developed the year before. Yeah. So it was kind of easy for him to see my body language and understand when I was coming out of break, and a little bit different for Odell, being that training camp was tougher because he was hurt and we was just trying to manage him to get him to the season.
Right.
So a lot of those things kind of got missing. But, we tried to do our best to make sure that he was able to play. Having him on the field is definitely a big element for our offense. He's a big part of it, and this year we'll see that, I'm sure.
You mentioned Odell, and did he really fully buy into it? Because I think, Odell looks at himself as a mega superstar. And there are not very many mega superstars that's in Cleveland. I think it caught him by surprise. Not only that the Giants traded him, you leave New York and go to Cleveland, but they traded him to the Browns. Did he fully embrace that? Because it didn't seem like he was always talking about being somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a shock, when you just got to pick up and leave a place that you feel like you were going to be at for your entire career. So, it's definitely a tough transition. For myself, it was a tough transition. But I would not say that he was not brought in. He was brought in. He was doing everything on a weekly basis to make sure that he could be able to play on Sunday.
Okay.
And, leading guys on and off the field. I mean, you look at it off the field this year, he's had a great year, and again, once we get a guy like Odell back healthy, you're gonna see, him doing the things that he's always done.
This is your third head coach in 3 years. I mean, you went from Hugh, you went to Freddie, and now you're Stefanski. Mm-hmm. How do you adjust? I mean, now you're about to hear your third message in 3 years.
Just trusting it. I think for me, it was tough again, like I say, with the transition and then with the coaching changes as well. Hugh Jackson is the guy that I definitely respect, and Freddie Kitchens as well. And now having Kevin here and getting a new philosophy, understanding a new offense, it's still going to be tough, but, I'm a competitor. Every time I take the field, I take the field to win, regardless of who's calling the plays, regardless of who's coaching, or who's throwing the ball, or who I'm next to. So my approach will always stay the same, and as long as I have that, I feel confident in myself and my ability that it doesn't matter who the coach is or anything like that.
So I mentioned Baker Mayfield. I remain a big fan. Shannon goes
Should be.
on and off the bandwagon.
Well.
Baker had a rough ride, man. I look at the numbers. He fell to 21st in the league in QBR. His completion percentage was second to last in the league. That's no good. And his touchdown-interception ratio was dead last in the National Football League because it was 22 touchdowns to 21 interceptions. I can't defend any of that. I did think he got a little too Odell conscious, like trying to force balls to Odell, because he obviously loves you and he trusts you, but I got to get the other superstar involved, maybe to a fault. And after a while, he didn't look sure of himself, like he's second-guessing every decision. And I don't know what you felt or saw in him, but it just wasn't the same guy we saw as a rookie.
Yeah. Again, communication. You know, a lot of it comes back down to game planning, you know, making sure, you know, I had an opportunity to sit with Michael Vick today. And, you know, I know as a quarterback, a lot goes into game planning, you know, that a quarterback feels like he's comfortable with.
Right.
You know, and I don't think that he has as much say-so in that as he had like to, you know, so a lot of the decisions making and things like that and protection, you know, a lot of things, you know, receivers not being in the right spot, you know, I take fault to that as well. You know, there were definitely things and opportunities that I had to make plays or stop defenders from making plays and just quite didn't, you know, so you can't put the sole blame on one person. Obviously, he's going to look at his season that he's had and make the adjustments and make the changes that he needs to make to come back this year and, you know, be the guy that you can defend on the show.
When I look at you guys, I thought you should have played through Nick Chubb because he's having a heck of a year.
Yeah.
And I thought Freddie K, because when you have a quarterback like Baker, you take him #1 overall. You have receivers like yourself who's been a Pro Bowl player. Odell has been a Pro Bowl player. You kind of sometimes you find yourself getting away what you really should do, and you try to spread it around. Well, I got to keep Jarvis. I got to give him his 10 targets. Odell need his 9 to 10 targets. And you miss out on an opportunity to do what Tennessee did, which is ride a horse into the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, I think Nick Chubb has hell of a start to his career, you know, and one of the guys that I admire his hard work and his approach, you know, from even his rookie season. You know, he's been producing since then. I think for us as an offense, again, we didn't really know what our true identity was. We would go into games, you know, this game we want to run the ball 50 times, or this game we want to throw the ball 50 times.
Right.
You know, instead of just doing whatever it took to win.
Right.
You know, and making the in-game adjustments. That's where I say with the communication of coming off the field and saying, Coach, we see this. Coach, they're playing cover 2. They're playing cloud to Odell. I'm getting singled, you know, and being able to make that adjustment on the fly.
Right.
And I didn't think that we did that very well.
Freddie,
So,
go ahead, Skip, go ahead.
You guys were featured on Hard Knocks 2 years ago, and you just stopped the show, man. It was Baker's, obviously, rookie camp, but the highlight for me was your tirade in the receivers room against all the receivers who were not practicing because of minor injuries. And I can't quote much of it because it got pretty profane, which was good because I think you got everybody's attention. Did any of that happen behind the scenes this year? Did you take any stands? Did you mount the soapbox in the locker room or in any meeting room this year and read the riot act to your team?
Yeah, I didn't really have to. You know, I think what I said, you know, everybody saw and everybody felt. A lot of our receiver group was still intact from the year before. And, you know, you add another guy, you add Odell Beckham, who has that mentality, who's played through injuries, you know, who's trying to practice through injuries. And, again, we found a way to manage him, found a way to manage myself throughout the season. I played hurt all year as well, you know. And, you know, that's something that when you have a team and are playing in this league, period. You know, it's 100% injury rate. You know, at some point you
better believe it.
You're gonna get hurt. You know, and you know, guys are gonna have to play through it. And it really was just more about creating that mental for everybody to know that, you know, it's gonna take everybody.
What are we missing out on Odell? I mean, I've heard you said it that he's misunderstood. Odell says people don't understand him. What are we missing out on?
I mean, he's a great person. You know, if you guys ever just, you know, sit down and talk, which I'm
Yes.
sure you have, talk with him, and, you know, maybe at times it's confusing to see, you know, some of the things he do versus the person that you see he really know he is. But, you know, he's a true competitor. You know, he loves his family. He loves, you know, playing this game. You know, he loves inspiring people, you know, and I think for us to this year coming, you know, when we see a healthier, more settled in Odell Beckham, again, you can expect the things that we've always seen from him.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.